Good evening and welcome, a warm welcome to my live stream, Fight CPS and Stop Taking Our Children. I'm your host, Bob Pace, and I know most of you have encountered a bad situation with CPS. Not all CPS is bad, but there's enough of them that are really causing a lot of disturbance, enough of them that are rogue. Now, why do you find CPS? I call it the Child Protection Systems. Every county in every state will have a CPS system. There are many different names: Department of Children and Family Services, Child Protection Services, Department of Children's Services, the Cabinet. I could go on and on and on. But it's really easy to talk if we just say CPS. Everybody knows what CPS is. If they don't know, they'll soon find out. Now, it's in my case was a horrible agency. In Orange County, California, where my case was, they've gone rogue. They're really bad. They're really bad. My 3 children were kidnapped and stolen and trafficked into foster care. And I know many of you are in the similar problems. Now, I've been talking to not only in the United States, I've been talking worldwide. It's a worldwide problem. There are 22 countries that have called in, such as Indonesia, Bangladesh, India, Libya, Saudi Arabia, Liberia, Sudan, Republic of Congo, Rwanda, Mozambique, 2 of the provinces in South Africa, then up to Europe, England, Scotland, Wales, Denmark, and Sweden, across the pond in North America, 4 provinces in Canada, all 50 states I've heard from, including the District of Columbia, south the border, Mexico, and then it's South America, north of Brazil, on the east coast, Grenada, then across the Pacific to New Zealand, and then the land down under Australia and 2 states there. So that's quite a range of people, not only worldwide, but in the United States. That's over 1,500 people. And it is a tough agency to be involved with. That's why it's very important you follow my rules and you listen to what I have to say. Now, this is an interactive podcast. You can use emojis, smiley faces, thumbs up, hearts, or you can send me stars. Please check below the follow button and write a comment about me. Also, boy, lost my train of thought here. Like there. Anyway, I'm going to move on. There's a really important number on the screen. It's in background red with white lettering. It's 888-6582. That's the law offices of Vincent W. Davis. He's the attorney I work for who created this live stream. He's an excellent attorney. I've used him to help bring back my children. He has over 39 years of law experience of fighting CPS. He's one of the leading attorneys fighting CPS. He's trained and schooled and educated in juvenile law, family law, and dependency law. Those are the 3 areas that CPS uses. So he's well familiar with that. And he's done a lot of cases here on the West Coast, but he'll go other states. He'll do other states. He's a pit bull of attorney. He's been doing it for 39 years. He's also what's called a trial attorney. He can do trials. And he has fought CPS, as I say, for 39 years and gotten thousands of children back. He's a real good pit bull attorney. On top of that, he can do lawsuits. When your case is over, it's a good time to have a lawsuit. and he's won millions of dollars against CPS. So those are the criteria you want to find out. One, are they a juvenile family dependency lawyer? And two, how good are their lawsuit skills um, against the agency? Now he also has live streams that he does like me. He does one in the morning at 6:30, and then he does one back to school during the weekdays, and then he has one on the weekend on Saturday. What you need to do is call in the 888-888-6582 number and ask him what the schedule is. Ask him what my schedule is. I pretty much have told you my schedule, and I'm on from Monday through Friday at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, and then on the weekends, 8 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Then I come back at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and that is 7 days a week, that nighttime live stream. Oh, great. I love it when your light is on. What light are we talking about? I have, oh, the light when the show is probably showing. Well, hello, Justice Revenge. And the name is new, but maybe the person behind the name is not new. Um, yeah, it's 7:07, and outside the sun is going. I'm on the West Coast in California. Lights on, please. What lights are we talking about? Um, you want more lighting in the background, Justice? I'll make a deal. I'll put more light in the background if you tell me where you're from. You tell me the place you're from. Now, that light's going to make me look bright. But if that's what you like, that's great. But that's a bright light. Is that better, Justice? Well, I know you're from the USA, but it'd be great if you tell me the city or the county or the state. Hello, Betty Joe, and welcome. I know you're from Montana. I know you're from Montana, and I want to welcome you here today. And Justin had a hard time seeing, so I turned on extra lights for him. But he's somewhere in the USA, so I don't know what his CPS case is, but that's okay. I'm here to help you all. I'm here because I care about you. I've been fighting CPS for 15 years. And sadly, too, I was a victim of CPS. And yes, my children were stolen and retaliated, and it's sad. CPS does have trafficking. And this is the Orange County area of California. That's the Orange County area where my CPS case was. Now, Betty Joe says, I think that justice is a scammer. Well, why would you say that, Betty Joe? Why would you say that? Only because he came on strong and won't tell me where. Okay, that's easy. The fix here. And no one is saying you're evil. No one is saying you're evil. Anyway, we're here in the room to help one another. Betty Jo's a long time family member of this room. She is a foster mom and she is fighting to get her niece back. Her brother had gone down to Nebraska to try to get her niece, his daughter back, and try to regroup and make amends there. So Betty Jo is a good foster mom, by the way. She took in a boy at 4 years old that lost a mother and a father through no fault of his own. The parents were killed in an auto accident on Friday, and Betty Jo took him in and is really trying to help him and so forth. Hello, crew, and welcome. That is Felicia, who calls me Uncle Bob, and she's from Ventura, and her family members are trying to take away her home that her and her mother live in. And 13 months, wow, that's a long time. That's a long time, Betty Jo. I've been on here for 18 months, so I know how long 13 months is. And I do apologize if we have people that come in the room to distract each one. We're here for a very common thing. We care about one another, and we need all the help we can in fighting CPS because there's enough bad elements. And we certainly don't need people that want to do their own views or whatever it is. I like to tell everybody, if you're going to text a comment, please follow these rules. And shame on me for not putting them up right away because we had someone in here that was trying to be everybody a hard time. To text a comment or a question, it should pertain to CPS. Please state your first name, your city or county, and the state. And if you're from one of the countries I mentioned, the 22 countries, your country. Also, please tell me about your CPS case from beginning to where you're at. So that is very important that we do that. That's very, very important that we do that. And Crystal, I'm so glad to see you. Something strange happened at about 10:50 my time on the west coast of California. I was booted off the live stream. So I had to come back in. When I came back in, all your comments were gone, Crystal. The other comments were there, but yours were gone. So I don't know if you saw that or not or whatever, but I do apologize. I asked my show producer, Grace, and she said she doesn't know why it happened or what happened. Anyway, there's a ghost in my room. I guess they had the power because someone just banned my guy that was sitting there, Justice, and he's gone. So he's now been banned. That wasn't by me. I didn't ban him. I was just muting him. Anyway, hi, my beloved. My day was long when there. Thank you for asking. I tried to make some calls to help people. I make calls from 8 in the morning to 10 o'clock before my live stream, and then from after my live stream from 11 o'clock to 1 o'clock. And these calls are potential people that need help with CPS and help retain an attorney. And I talk to them. Not only do I talk about CPS, I talk about civil matters, family law, you name it. I'm really starting to branch out there. Now, Cruel says they laugh behind the locked front door and said, my mom isn't there anymore. Who's laughed? Who's laughed? I missed that. Something I missed too much or something. I know Crystal knows too much, but since my mom went to her mom's house to live tentatively, I guess she's been relocated yet again. I went by the home and she was living in, and my uncles didn't even open the door, nor even for me to get my mail. That's terrible. I understand how your family has moved you out of your house. That's wrong. That's wrong. I'm sorry you're going through that. Crystal, everything good so far. They're going to release my daughter to my mom. Okay. That sounds good, Crystal. That sounds really good. I hope it works out for you. Felicia, I called her previous APS social worker. He advised me to call law enforcement to request a welfare check. Call 911. The reason why I tell you to do 911 is because the police and the child protection system, they lie. They lie. And with the public record 911, it'll stay there when you called and what you asked for. They in turn will contact the right people and help you out with a welfare check if you're worried about your daughter or your mom or whatever the situation is, cruel, whatever it is. Crystal says, I don't want to say too much. I just want to listen because they might be cut me off again. Okay. All right. You don't, it's perfect fine, Crystal. Perfectly fine. You can be a listener. And Cruel says, I did that. And voicemail from the PD says, per previous reports, the residents of my grandmother's house don't wish to have anything to do with me and want no contact with me. Oh boy. Felicia, you definitely have to get an attorney like Mr. Davis involved. Because it's getting worse for me. Family members can be so evil. Right now, I have someone in the neighborhood, a neighbor of mine, that doesn't like my car. So he calls every night to complain about my car. And police are giving me hundreds of tickets, and I'm fighting every one. I just was with the police today. But when some people are mad or angry, they do ridiculous things. That is terrible. That's terrible. We have enough problems ourselves. Now, Cruel says, I did that. And voicemail from the PD said, previous reports, the residents of my grandmother house do not wish to have anything to do with me. Well, you need to get an attorney to get it. Is that your house or your mom's house, or is it the family member's house? Who has the title on the house that we're talking about? That's your step one. You got to find out, because the person that has the title of the house is the one who can say come or go. Come or go. So I want to help you that. Now, besides texting a question or a comment, you can also be a guest on my live stream. And I'd love for you to be a guest. To be a guest in the live stream, please email our show producer, Grace, at vincentwdavis.com with a day and a time you want to be on our show. And we will gladly get you on. We'll give you a link to Facebook. Hold on one second. I got to take a pause here. I'm going to mute my mic. All right, I'm back. Hopefully the lighting will be better, I guess. Also, I had to take care of a family member. I am broadcasting live from home, and it's the best I can do. I live in Surf City, USA, and I'm 3 blocks from the beach, and that is sunny California. Now, I said to be a guest, you're going to please email our show producer, Grace, at vincentw.com. And hold on a second. hold on one second. I got to take care of another matter. I got to find my mouse first. The cursor. Oh. All right, I'm back again. Again, I apologize for these interruptions. I really do. I'm trying to appease a lot of people, and it seems like tonight's the night that a lot of people aren't too happy. Um, you think it's so much better here? Okay. Cruel says, I don't know what he's telling everyone. I've done at all. No one tells me. Well, if it's your house, Cruel, you can get a restraining order against your family members and keep them out. Is it your mom's house? Is it your house? Or does it belong to your brother? Or who's the title on the house? And I'll help you, Cruel. You need to tell me who the title on the house is. Okay, my beloved. You said that's much better. As far as what? The lighting? Because at first when I came on, one person is in here, is not in this room anymore, said the lighting was awful. So anyway, I know Betty says my face sometimes gets red, and that's sometimes for me running to get here to the show, or I'm a fair-skinned person. I'm out in the sun a lot, so maybe that's part of it. I don't know, but I'm okay there. But I really thank you all. I want to try to help you all with your problems with CPS. Okay, I've talked about how to be a guest, and now I want to put my phone number up so in case some of you want to call me. Right now, if you want to call me, you can call Bob at 626-698-0990. The other number, again, I told you, 888-888-6582 is the law office of Vincent W. Davis. And I want to thank Vincent for all the work he does. You know, he does a live stream in the morning at 6:30 in the morning Pacific Standard Time. You can talk to a real attorney, and he'll answer your questions. He also does office hours during the week. You have to call in to see when he's on, and he does it on Saturday at 10 o'clock. He'll answer questions. So there you go. If you call in to that number, or you're a guest on my show, I can take up 9 of you, you get a free 15-minute consultation with Mr. Davis. Free, 15 minutes. All you have to do is call in or be on my show as a guest. And I'd love to have you. I have 9 of you as a guest. So that would work out great. So my number's up, and there's another way you can call too. I got another deal that you can call, and you get 30 minutes with Mr. Davis. To get 30 minutes with Mr. Davis, all you have to do is pay $60. And you get 30 minutes in Zoom consultation with attorney Vincent Davis. And it's all care of me. And you go to this website. It's https candidly.com/aptts/VWD/Bob Pace. So now there's lots of ways you can talk to him. Lots of ways. Anyway, my phone number's back up. And I was reading a very interesting article that I found. I'd like to continue on since you guys have no questions for me, I think. Let me double check. There's some comments came in from Cruel. So let's see what Cruel had to say here. Something cruel said in the Supreme Court, okay? I've been stuck, frozen in my mind. It's like time doesn't move, but it's moving so fast. Wow. I have every intention of getting to drafting the petition, okay? And what's the petition for? What are you going to send it to? I'm so sad when you haven't done nor said anything to anyone. That person attacking you is so sad. It should not be like that. Well, this world is a crazy place. We have a lot of people that attack people for no reason at all. I have a crazy neighbor that has been really on my case since last March and determined to force me out of my neighborhood. And so he's used the ruse that my car is this or that. And so I have to constantly fight the battles. Today, I've finally met the police and worked up a solution. I'm going to get a permit for a year and he can't complain anymore. But it's really sad because it takes so much energy, and I'd rather put my time into helping you all. And Cruel says you have no one. Well, you have me, Cruel. I've been here. I've talked to you ever since you first come on, Felicia from Ventura. I'm here for you. So you do have someone. Yeah, the light I had in the morning. Yeah, okay. Well, I'm not a professional video guy or, I have my son who's experimenting doing videos, does a good job. I try to put my lighting so that I look natural and everything on there, but I am working on that, my beloved. Now, Cruel wants to give my email addresses are full. Well, you need to read your emails and delete them. But out of storage. Well, I don't know how much emails you have. I have quite a lot of emails. I think on my first email I wrote when they first started on the internet. So I don't know what the storage capacity is. So you do have to go through email and delete them or save them or put them in folders if you want to refer them later on. You can organize your emails, but they do come in handy to review later on. Now, Cruel for this about emails. So I'm unable to send or receive emails. Well, then create a new email. People have lots of emails. I have a Gmail account. I have several AOL accounts. Let me see what else. I have a Vincent W. Davis email. And so I have enough emails that I'll be okay. I sometimes create emails. Like when my son was in high school, I created an email that the whole family could share. My wife, me, and my son could all read the same things from modern day. So it was a good email there. So you can create a new email if it's full or start all over again or whatever. Still no phone service, no internet service today. Well, you can get free internet if you go to FedEx or you go to Starbucks. They have free internet. You just got to find a Starbucks that allows you to sit in a room and use their internet. FedEx, most of the operations, they have free Wi-Fi. It isn't the greatest. It isn't strong. McDonald's has free Wi-Fi. Jack in the Box, I'm not sure. But a lot of the restaurants do and so forth. The library is full of email if you have a good public library. And they have email packages. I know it's expensive to have internet. And I just saw the bill the other day. It's still pretty expensive. I just can't imagine. My internet bill is more than my phone bills. I have 4 phones that I pay for, and it's cheaper to pay the 4 phones than it was to pay the internet, which doesn't make sense to me. I don't know if they have a racket going on with internet or not. Anyway, I had found this article that I was reading this morning. It's pretty good here. You have no water. I have my water turned back on and tomorrow at all. So I'm sorry. There's another comment coming in here, and I got to stop. Anyway, I am trying to refocus here and get back into what I was trying to talk to is about the article that I was reading this morning, and it's a new Family Welfare Act that was created, but there's no news media about it. Let me see here. Okay, well, at least you found the answers, Felicia. At least you found the answers. Now, Crystal says, please do not trust your court appointed a lawyer. I agree. There is a good topic there. Court appointed lawyers or public defenders aren't worth the money that they are nothing more than freshly graduate law students. They have a degree in criminal law, but not in juvenile law, family law, or dependency law. That's the area we're in. And court-appointed attorneys will not actively chase your case because they have a caseload of 30 or more clients. The child protection system loads up the court-appointed attorneys. So they fail. They don't, all they do is they go in at the hearing. They don't even meet with you before or after anything. They don't have time. My wife and I both had court-appointed attorneys. It was a waste of time. It wasn't until I got a real attorney, Vincent Davis, that things started to happen. Good point. Study your constitutional rights and amendments. They're so important. Look at number 14. Look at 4. They're really important there. Crystal says corporation and organizations rule the court. Well, why do you think all matters are happening? I don't know, beloved. That's a good question. Cruel says, but it's not very easy to prove this with no money and dwindling resources. I feel like being blackmailed for having any type of success. I'm really exhausted living life. I know. I don't like that. I wish all could be well. I agree, beloved. No enemies, no problem that love peace and respect. I'm going to call you this week when you're on, and I'll call you privacy. Okay, Crystal. Cruel, I realize I utilize the free internet service from businesses. I just have no transportation, less energy to busy missions like that, as I say, day out. I return down. Well, the buses are cheaper sometimes than paying the gas for a car. Um, Crystal says, so you need a research. You need to look up things and study how you can win on your own and show evidence and proof, even there still prosecute. You have, but you still push. And my beloved says, oh dear, no hablo español, hablo inglés. She says, sí, eso, porque el bueno. I'm not going to, my Spanish is uno momento. It's a little bit. That's right, my beloved. It's fine. All right, I'm going to zone out of this room and go to where did it go? My tab was there, but disappeared. Now I look up history. Okay. History. Where is it? It was a new chapter in Americans' welfare system. Here it is. A new chapter in Americans' welfare system. This was hidden. Not one news entity reported this. At the end of last year, Congress passed the largest overhaul of the nation's child welfare system in more than 15 years. Now, I don't know if you heard about this or not, but this was new to me. The reform includes more supportive for kinship care, aging out the youth, and efforts to prevent the separations of family due to poverty. Oh, I like that part about poverty. You should not lose your child because you're low income. Now, they had a show called On Point, and they had guests. They had lots of guests on the show that had a good background in the family service. And one of the guests says, a little earlier this month, January 4th, 2025, to be exact, the first major overhaul of the federal child welfare system is more than 15 years was signed into law. It passed Congress with bipartisan support and is posed to change the lives of families who depend on the federal child welfare system. I didn't know there's such a thing called the federal child welfare system. So you think that with the majority good news, President Biden, because he was still president back then, would have held a signing ceremony at the Oval House. Well, Trump signs all the time with ceremonies. And every news outlet from CNN News, Fox News, MSNBC, NPR, etc., would have run a story on it. But none of that happened. President Biden had no glitzy signing ceremony. In fact, the reform was signed quietly on a Saturday on January 4th. No major news outlets ran even the slightest stories on this bill. If you're trying to Google it, federal child welfare reform bill gets signed, you really won't find a thing from almost every news outlet in the country, with a couple exceptions. When we talk about it later, so blame it on the news media, a tilt forward. The negative and sensational, which is unfortunate because of this reform, is a big deal. In the 26 pages, Congress not only added 75 million more dollars to the federal child welfare system, it also made several major policy shifts. Perhaps most importantly, changed the law so that living in poverty is no longer classified as neglect and cannot be used to separate children from their families. What was happening lately? You remember the fires we had in LA? All these homes were burned. What was happening is CPS was trying to take the children from the parents because they didn't have a home for them. Now, I know that a lot of people had insurance and some of them did there. A lot of them put up in hotels. But why put them up in hotels? Why not the National Guard offered to FEMA, which is the national disaster, and I think it's a disaster program itself, offered to fly in recreation vehicles, mobile homes, portable housing. They could fly them all in and drop them on the driveways of all those homes. All those homes, their house is gone, but they could clear the driveway, set the RV there, then hook up the water, hook up the gas, hook up the electrical, hook up the phone. All the utilities are to that home. All you have to do is put them in there. And then the people can live in that home temporarily to rebuild their new home. They can rebuild their new home. And it can be all done, very easily, making agreements that you'll rebuild your home in 2 years, whatever it takes to rebuild a home. And that you can live in that home and you can have your utilities hook up. And the utility companies could hook them up. So then you have people living in all these driveways while they're rebuilding their home instead of paying $300 a night for them to live in hotels, because that's a lot of money. Now, an RV can be anywhere from $50,000 to $200,000, and mobile homes could be anywhere from $25,000 to $100,000. And you can put these mobile homes, these trailers, wherever there, as a place. They come with already built-in toilets, sinks and counters and doors and stuff. All you have to do is add some of the amenities to them, like a refrigerator or a microwave. And the same thing could be done on the East Coast when they had the horrible hurricanes through Mississippi, Alabama, South Carolina, North Carolina, Tennessee, Kentucky, all the states that were hit and the families became homeless. Right away, CPS was knocking at the door. We want your child. You can't live this way. Your home, I know your home washed down the stream, but you got to have a new home. Well, they could have flown in homes, the National Guard, to flat surfaces, especially if it's not too close to rivers or anything, and they can rehook into the utilities. I don't know why someone doesn't think about this. It's not a lot of money. It's not a lot of money. In fact, it would save money. Plus, the people that are having hard times could still keep their children in a safe spot with a bedroom and everything, nice and warm. But oh no one ever thinks about those kinds of things. It's too easy. And I want to come back to the room because I'm reading this article, so I want to see what's going on in my room. Because I was reading the article, I want to see what people were saying. Now, I think we left off with Crystal Sandoval, who says, I need a research. You need to look things up and study how you can win on your own. I agree. That's where I learned a lot of things. Now, my beloved said in Spanish, so I don't know. Hopefully she's translated in English. Anyway, my beloved says, I'm awful how they think they can take advantage of families that don't make millions monthly. I agree. This thing about income, when you have the price of eggs, they were at $10. Trump says, I lowered it down. He lowered it down $3. There's $7 for a dozen of eggs. And they were out of them at the store. They're out of them. $7 for a dozen eggs when it used to cost $3, $2.99 for a dozen of eggs. And that's just one example. The gasoline did drop down a dime, but it went up a quarter. And it was down at $3.75 a gallon at Arco. But then that was before the elections. We had the elections, they jacked it up. And it got as high as $3.29. Now it's as high as $4.29. Now it's $4.19. And, milk, I never heard of milk at $7 a gallon. That's ridiculous. So where is things coming down? All I know is someone at the top is making a lot of money. Someone is making a lot of money. Those are all the CEOs and so forth. And they are making a lot of money. I don't think a lot of people lost on this one. I think it's terrible when you have food and your income is on a fixed income with Social Security. I know how you guys are really doing it, so forth. Yes, I know it's horrible. I wish Attorney Vincent was our president. Yeah. Well, yeah, that would be good president, but I don't know about the money situation. He gives out too much free time. He doesn't. Anyway, I don't want to say anything negative. I wish they would have had a kind heart and do that. Yes, Vincent does have a kind heart. I make a great president. I make a great president. My wife says no, so I guess she doesn't believe in me. My beloved says their hearts would be free, so happy and peaceful if they could be good only. I agree. People should help people. And this is what this room is all about. Since day one, 18 months ago, over 1,500 people have called me. And I've tried to make this room a family room where you can come, be safe. And I tolerate people that want to make a point about something. And very rarely do I excuse someone from the room, like the guy tonight, or there was a girl I don't know, was banned from the room, but not by me. I still don't know what's going on. This morning, Crystal Sandoval's messages were erased. And when I came back, she wasn't on. And it happened to me where I was booted off. So, I would make a kind president. I have a big heart. I agree. Thank you, my beloved. You got one vote. Good. All right. Now back to the article. I'm going to go leave StreamYard for a second, go back to the new chapter in American children welfare. And there's so much more as well. So today we want to spend the hour talking about this reform, learning what aspects of it are good news indeed, and what still needs to be done for the hundreds of thousands of children and families who in some way depend on federal child welfare. And later in this hour, we're going to hear from some of these people. Well, I'm not going to spend an hour reading this thing here, but this was a show that they had. Now, they started with one of the guests, and he was the founder and executive director at Boulder Horizons, a nonprofit that focuses on child welfare policy and advocacy. And he joins us from Springville, Virginia. Welcome to On Point. Well, the guest on there says, thanks so much for having me. And then as further said, you described in your website child welfare that is a huge bipartisan victory for children and family. Is the enactment of protecting Americans' children by strengthening the Families Act. What makes it so huge in your eyes? The question's asked. Well, the guest says, what makes it so huge is the shift that represents to thinking about how we can really focus on helping family before they ever experience a crisis. If you think about the analogy to our own healthcare system, you know, the emergency room, the hospital, that's where we have the crisis response, the real efforts to intervene when something has gone terribly wrong. So if we're able to support primary care to be able to help people before they get sick, if we can help families before they ever experience that crisis, we're able to avoid it. So keeping families out of crisis, essentially, that does sound like a really big deal. You know, I have to say I struggled a little bit with finding solid numbers on how many people we're talking about here. I mean, I saw this foundation report that in 2022, there are 500,000 children in foster care systems. Now, I've heard 500,000. That's 500,000 children in the United States are in foster care. But does this reform touch even families potentially than that? I mean, how would you classify its hugeness? Another guest speaker said, absolutely. I mean, if you think just last week, the Federal Child Bureau released their update data on child maltreatment. So we know roughly 7 million children per year are the subject reported to Child Protective Services. 7 million. That's a lot of children. And that's a yearly. Yearly. And from there, there's the process of investigation and figuring out if abuse or neglect has occurred. That's not a neutral experience. So even if there hasn't been any harm for that family, that's a huge disruption to their life. It is. It interrupts your life. So we need to avoid it. So keeping families out of crisis, essentially, that does sound like a really big deal. You know, I have to say, I struggle a little bit with valued solid numbers, how many people we're talking about here. But those children, now absolutely, if you think just last week, the federal child said they updated, so roughly 7 million children per year are in protective service. And then from there, there's a process of investigation figuring out. I already did that part here. Um, so there's a lot of people coming under the umbrella that could potentially feel an impact from this reform. Now, it's lies within the Social Security Act, right? And it's lies, there's something called Title 4B. Can you explain that? Okay, Title 4B is on usually a 5-year cycle. So it goes through the updates every 5 years or so. Unless Congress, decides to take, shorter term extensions, which have done at times too. But then what I understand is that the passage of the Support of American Children and Family Act is the first major reform in 15 years. How did that happen? Well, the first major reform in quite a few years, I'd say there's been several major reforms that it really builds upon. Now, dating back to the Foster Connection to Success and Promoting Adoptions Act in 2008. And then we had the Family First Prevention Service Act in 2018. That was a really big groundbreaking shift, where it's a push to say we really need to follow up what the evidence tells us. We know that investing in services to prevent unnecessary foster care is the right thing, get good outcomes, and it's also better for the taxpayer. Well, in 1984, President Bill Clinton signed the law of the Incentive Act, which basically said that CPS will be rewarded money. I'm talking the tune of $10,000 to $15,000 for incentives for having a child adopted into foster care. That was a push away from family reunification, which it takes at least a year because one of the programs, domestic violence, is a year-long class. So that's why it takes so long. So if you're going to be involved in CPS, you got to spend at least a year. And with me, it was 3 years till they finally let my boys come back. Then reality builds upon that by updating Title 4B, so Family First updated of the Social Security Act, which is a separate set of investments primarily in the foster care, but now can support some services for family when they're kind of at that front door of the welfare, child welfare. So there's already a crisis happening, and it's a way to say we can give those services so that you can stay together, safely stay together. The promise of this bill is to say, let's go further upstream and help you before this is in a crisis. Now, one of the speakers says, okay, but the reform to Title 4B hasn't happened in a long time. Yeah, it has been some time since we had this level of change. In 2 decades, that's 20 years since we had any new investments into Title 4B. Wow, one of the listeners says, okay, so let's talk about the thing that seems to be like a major policy shift. We'll talk about the money in just a second, but in the past, poverty could be a reason to claim that families were neglecting their children and therefore separating them, and that was no longer be allowed under this new law. Yeah, the biological parents are studies have shown they're the best parents. It's incredible. So often, now why this comes here, I don't want to follow this. Okay. So often, families are experiencing many forms of crisis. One of those can be economic deprivation. And we also know there are major challenges being able to figure out how to get the service support for families needed to be stable. So if you got, for example, a child who's coming to every school every day for a week wearing the same clothes, and the teacher makes a report to CPS saying, I'm worried about this child, what's going on here? If there's an investigation, we will find the challenges the family, had their washing machine break and they can't afford to buy a new one. We shouldn't bring that child into foster care. We should get that family a new washing machine and make sure they have what they need to be able to thrive. So we even seen some states make this kind of reform, but we haven't seen it the kind of clear directive from the federal government to say poverty alone is not a grounds for removing a child. Now, when you describe it in the way you did, it sounds unbelievable that there is a reason that children have been separated from their families, but it's indeed has happened and happened. And often, sometimes we're talking about, complex crisis, right? And I also, will say there's a lot of children who really do need that crisis intervention response because oftentimes you might have many layers, if you know, of generational trauma for a family, unmet substance use disorder. Treatment needs for apparent domestic violence, a whole variety of functions. So oftentimes all those things can become entangled. In a weird way, we often talk about the child welfare. We have an underreported problem and an overreported problem. We're overreporting oftentimes low income families of color who are receiving investigations at disproportionate rates to population. And at the same time, we almost 2,000 children a year who die from abuse or neglect. So we really need to be able to dial our system in to identify risk, appropriately intervene in the right way. And another guest says, further, this takes a step in that direction. Another person says this takes a real critical step in that direction. Okay, so explain to me though, so many of the touch points for children's welfare systems do come through the states, as you mentioned. Regarding this new approach of poverty exclusive cannot be used as a reason to separate families. But how's the federal government settling that standard? I mean, what levers are they going to use to get that message to the states? Yeah, so the blunt tool that the federal government often uses is condition the receipt of federal funds on meeting certain standards. So under this program, for example, states every 5 years have a plan they send to the federal government that outlines everything that they'll be doing and gives the assurance that they have the rights to the rules and regulations, requirements in the book. And so this is one of those many things that require to be able to demonstrate to the feds when affecting your funding and so forth. So speaking of funding, that is when 75 million more annually, that comes with this bill into federal program regarding the child abuse and child neglect system. Now I want to check back with my SteamYard folks and see if you say anything else. May resources are underway. Okay. I'm looking for Crystal or anyone that may be able to assist a GoFundMe Facebook fundraiser. What are you sorry about, my beloved? Out of the blue is Travis. Out of the blue is from Kansas City, Missouri. And he was on my show as Travis there. So you say you need to retain Vincent. I am a survivor of trafficking. I'm grateful for amnesty. That's great. You were talking about amnesty, Travis. Now, my beloved says, do you have a private attorney? I have my private attorney, Vincent W. Davis, who has been my attorney for 15 years. He's the one that got my kids back. Are you talking about Travis? He's trying to get Oh, welcome back, Felice. Cruel, welcome back. I know his daughter is missing, and I told him what to do, and he talked to me in the show, and he's doing those things. He's doing those things, and so he is safe in Kansas City, Missouri. He said. I know your 10-year-old baby, your girl, I know is missing, and you're supposed to call 911 today and report a missing child, and get an update from the director of the child protection systems there in Kansas City, Missouri. Now, I just looked at my clock. It's now 8 o'clock. That means my show time is over, and I got to turn my show over. And I hope we able to talk about something that was interesting about the Family Welfare Act and the changes that are going to take place. And yeah, Travis does have a list to do. He's supposed to do. He's the one out of Kansas City, Missouri. Thank you, Travis, for being in here. My beloved, thank you very, very much for being in here. My beloved is from California. And see who else. Cruel. Thank you, Cruel. Felicia from Ventura, California. And let me see who else I have here. I don't think we got anybody else. Out of the Blue is here. Thank you very much, Out of the Blue. And they've been in here. My beloved already have. And Crystal Sandoval has been in here. That is good too, Crystal. And Felicia and my beloved. They're the early part of my show. I think I got everybody. Crystal Sanders are. Betty Jo. Don't want to forget Betty Jo. And thank you, Betty Jo. Thank you for all my listeners, my family. I want to say God bless to you all. And keep fighting for your children. Don't forget. And this is Bob Pace signing off. I'll be on tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. in the morning, Pacific Standard Time. God bless you.